Fast food workers. What menu item should everyone avoid from where you work? Story 1. Worked Circle K for 3 years. Coffee is surprisingly good and machines were well maintained. But the cappuccino iced coffee machine was disgusting and impossible to clean despite best efforts. Lots of tiny parts where powdered drink mix could sit and rot. My location was next to a university and we had a regular who was an engineering professor. Once he came in and watched while I was trying to clean the cappuccino machine and said he should use it in class as an example of poor design. Story 2. I used to work at a froyo shop. If you see a topping and think, I've never thought of that being a topping for froyo, you probably aren't alone. Things like Fruity Pebbles were just put back out every morning, getting older and older because no one ate them. Story 6. I worked at Jimmy John's for almost 7 years, and they are obsessive about keeping things clean, to the point they go through a 8-ish page packet of cleaning lists each day, and all food items are super fresh and labeled to be used within 72 hours. The only thing I would not eat from there is the bacon because it comes cold and it's just kind of unpleasant, lol. Story 7. Former Disney CM here. I worked in foods for the last 1.5 years I was there. I can honestly say that you should be comfortable eating or drinking anything from the parks. Obviously, it's not health food, but from a food safety perspective, Disney is super diligent. Ice machines are cleaned regularly, at least once a week. Same with beer tap and soda lines, they are flushed weekly. Of course, things occasionally happen, and something can go wrong, but as soon as it's noticed, it's addressed. There have been times when items have been pulled from every location because there was an issue with a single item at a different location in another park. Disney can't afford a hit to its reputation, so they don't take chances. Story 8. There's way too much Wendy's chili slander here. Mefs here don't know what chili is. It's not supposed to be fresh. It's a stew that simmers and sits, made from leftover ingredients that would otherwise be wasted. That's the whole fucking point. And as someone who made it for a short while in high school, it's completely fine. The thing to avoid at Wendy's are the salads, but I'd assume that's a given for every fast food restaurant. Edit. So quality definitely depends on location, but I bet 9/10 places are fine. And if it's watery, put crackers in it, that's what they're for. Story 9. I agree with the ice machine. I worked at a very popular Midwest burger joint in 2 different cities. The busier one would clean out the ice machines twice a week, and the less busy one wouldn't until there was black floaters. Also, be watchful of how they scoop ice in your cup. If they scoop the ice into the cup, your ice is going to have wax in it. Story 10. Worked at a Bojangles. I didn't notice much issues with the ice, but I know in general that ice machines are an issue. Chicken. For being a fried chicken place, the fresh fried chicken, I'd avoid that. The tenders, supremes, and Cajun filet are all fine. Those are frozen and just fried. But the legs, wings, breasts, thighs, those come fresh raw and get marinated. The issue is, sometimes the store orders too much. Maybe you planned for that Friday night football game that got rained out and now you didn't have that influx of people. Or you didn't plan enough for Sunday because it's the summer and families are spending their time at the beach. But it rained and their plans got rained out, and they all came to Bojangles for a tailgate special. So you ran out, panicked, over-ordered the next week, and it's sitting in the cooler. I've seen green chicken. We've fried up green chicken. We've feared getting written up if we refused to serve it, and if we did something that would cause it to get thrown out. The above issues, those happen. You order enough to prepare, but you can't prepare for every issue. That's why you're allowed to waste food. Throw it away, it went bad. Heck, you might even be able to argue that it went bad from the vendor and you didn't realize it until you opened the box. But instead, everybody is afraid of losing their job, from the crew member to the manager, that it's easier to just cook and serve it, and maybe serve it at a discount as a manager's special. Story 11, opposite of a horror story and not technically fast food, sorry. Quick Trip, the gas station, has decently yummy food from their kitchen. It's basically all frozen, thawed, and then cooked, but the cleanliness and quality is dependable, and QT is strict about employees maintaining guidelines. Also, just to add, QT has secret shoppers visit their kitchens 1-2 times a week per store and 2-4 times a week for the rest of the store. Everything is automatically labeled with dates and when it's no longer fresh, and I've never been to a QT that didn't uphold that. Story 12. I used to work at a Papa John's, and it's not a health reason to avoid things, but generally, avoid going overboard on toppings. There's a chart for how much of each topping gets used based on how many toppings are on the pizza, and it gets smaller as the number of toppings go up. Once you hit 3 toppings, you're basically paying $1 more to get half of each topping just to get the extra topping. IIRC, a triple pepperoni pizza has less pepperoni on it than a double, for instance. Story 13. Worked at a chain coffee shop with a type of reindeer as its mascot. Bakery items are designed to be dry in order to get you to buy coffee, and the coolers are overly sugary. However, the coffee is legit. If there is anything else on the drip menu besides regular Caribou blend, get that one instead, as it has less acid and is better roasted than most other coffee shops. Story 3. I worked at Chuck E. Cheese years ago, and while the pizza was good and safe, it's pretty tough to screw up pizza, but the salad bar would be a pass. Also, the mochas use regular Caribou blend coffee as the espresso. It's not a trade secret, but the acidity is what blends the chocolate to create that unique mocha taste. Story 14. XGM at Chipotle. I eat literally anything, but the barbacoa and carnitas are made off-site and come in a bag. Depending on your local Chipotle, this could be good or bad. Once had a snake in our lettuce. Guess it was fresh. However, I haven't been there since they added all the new-fangled proteins. Quality has been inversely correlated to the number of stores. Story 15. Anything with strawberry caramel or chocolate, drizzle, at Culver's. I worked with a girl at a movie theater who was talking about how they used the same dispensers for their drizzles that we used for our butter. At the end of every day, we deconstructed the entire machine and cleaned it with a degreaser, 'cause hot butter tends to get places. She said that she didn't know you had to clean them because at Culver's, those machines were never cleaned, and not even the manager was trained on how to do it. Story 16. Anything from Tim Hortons. Workers get in trouble for throwing out expired product. Workers are encouraged to lie when doing temperature checks. Workers are advised to do a sniff test on expired product. Workers are discouraged from investigating where mold is coming from and told to just clean up the visual. ETA. I realize this is not the case everywhere, and I'm glad. For me, however, this was the case at several locations throughout 2 different cities. Story 17. Most of the answers in this thread are just pointless, as the majority of fast food chains mentioned here in are franchises. There will be huge differences in the practices, quality, and cleanliness depending on the owners and/or managers of the specific restaurant that the person answering has worked at. Adults and kids would just toss the tongs and spoons all over the salad bar, letting the handles fall into the food, getting all the different vegetables and dressings mixed together. All this at one of the grossest places on earth, where they are putting their hands all over video games, the ball pit, pizza, and around again. Story 18. I work as a barback part-time. It is an ongoing joke around the bar to say, wow, he must have had the halibut whenever a pissed-off customer makes a scene. The joke is that we have no idea why a fucking grilled halibut sandwich is on the menu. No one ever orders it, because it is obviously a menu item that stands apart from the rest of the fried bar food. We are not even sure if anyone even knows how to fucking grill the damn halibut fillets back there. TLDR, the grilled halibut sandwich at a dive bar. Story 19 *edit to respond to all the comments. Yes, I know this is how chili is made in most restaurants. And yes, I agree that it's a good way to not be wasteful. The part that grosses me out is seeing a pile of old meat in a big bucket being squirted with a hose in the sink. I personally love to cook, and I don't eat a lot of fast food. If I made chili, it would be with fresh ground meat from a local butcher, and my own seasonings, and tomato from my garden, etc. So just about everything in fast food grossed me out because it's such a stark contrast to the way I normally consume food. Worked at Wendy's. The chili kinda grosses me out. We take all the hamburger we didn't sell and put it in a bucket and put it in the sink and then run water on it so the meat gets all mushy and wet. Then we put the bucket in the big freezer till morning. Then we cook the chili with the soggy hamburger and 2 bottles of pre-made mixes. Story 20. I'm not a fast food worker, but between 2006 to 2012 I worked on site doing some IT and cable management, and some tasks required me to get on top of the kitchen thingy, you know, the styrofoam interlining, pardon my ESL. The thing is, while I was working there between the roof and the boards on every site, most of the time a lot of microscopical, very toxic fiberglass fibers were floating and raining on top of the salads, and nobody said nothing. Very toxic indeed, and never ever they paid attention to me even after I reported the issue to the managers. Every time I was dismissed, they said, "Oh, we cannot stop serving salads just because you're up there." So there you go. Incredible. Now go and check what does fiberglass ingestion does to your body. At least it wasn't breathing it, haha. Story 21. Worked at Papa Murphy's for several years, 20+ years ago. I will confidently eat everything they serve. Of course, food handling and cleanliness can vary store to store, but our store would always get 100 on our health inspections. The corporate culture was all about cleanliness and serving a quality product. The food is a decent quality for the price. The mozzarella is grated on site, dough is made in store, produce is prepped by employees. We all hated chopping onions. Ugh, if we had pizzas near closing, we would try to sell them super cheap because we always tossed old food. We didn't try to sell anything old or gross ever. We dated food and would use math to predict how much to prep, limiting waste food costs. Story 22. I worked at Wawa for 6 hours. Everyone raves it's the best. I'm here to burst that pulsating bubble for y'all. Few things. The freestyle/self-serve fountain soda machines do not get cleaned ever. I cleaned them out of a night, and it was vile to say the least. Slimy, looked like a hairball, and the smell I about FTN puked. I never drank out of them again. At the end of the night, then we would flip all of the salad bar vegetables over into fresh containers and top them off for the next day. They did get thrown out every few days. If employees ever made ourselves a salad, we would make it from the ingredients in the fridge that were not yet out on the bacteria bar. All food you order in the deli? Every other night is delivery. Every time I opened a package of turkey, ham, etc., the smell of mass processing smells like farts from a rotting corpse. Toaster ovens don't get cleaned, so there's flavor added to anything you want toasted. Knives to cut the not-so-great sandwiches are dropped on the floor. They simply dunk those in sanitizer water and dry it off. Those so-called paninis aren't pressed at all. They literally come frozen with the grill lines on them. Those sizzlies in the warmer by the register, usually. Yeah, people open the boxes and touch the food. Then, put it right back. Always request it fresh if you must go. I was fired after going through cancer treatments because my body just couldn't do it anymore. Story 23, pizza joint cook here. Mellow Mushroom, at least the one I worked at, has some of the best food safety standards in any restaurant I worked at. Fresh ingredients, and overall good food safety routine. That being said, anything with the chicken you can probably pass on. It's not unsafe, but it comes in pre-cooked and is just kinda weird. Not great texture and has a very processed taste for how fresh the rest of out ingredients are. If you are set on chicken, I suggest getting teriyaki or herb vinaigrette chicken. It tastes great that way. Story 24, soda machine, ice machine. My experience is only from one fast food joint, but after seeing how it went down, I could see it happening anywhere. We were open until 3 a.m., and we were always busy until around close. The night crew has a list of stuff they are supposed to do before they leave. Bag, date, and put all of the food in the fridge for the next day. Do dishes and clean all surfaces. Take apart and clean the soda machine. When it comes to work, I've always been kind of a Boy Scout. I got to the end of the list and took apart the soda stream. Black mold in all of the nozzles. No one wanted to do it at the end of the night because they wanted to go home. Story 25. I worked at a Chick-fil-A, and this is location dependent because each one is independently owned, but we had very good cleaning standards. Story 4. I worked at Chipotle in 2019. At that time, everything was fresh, and I always trusted it. Right after opening, the meat is usually left over from the night before, but it was still good, and I personally didn't think that was a bad policy as it reduced food waste. We would clean the restaurant top to bottom, corner to corner every single night. We did ice machines once to twice a month and ice cream machines every night. If you're hyper afraid of drink machines because of other things people mentioned, the tea and lemonade are both extremely sanitary. If you don't clean the lemonade parts every night, the pulp will stick and you won't be able to use the machines. Story 26. Not sure if it counts, but my partner worked at Sam's Club for less than a week. And in that time, they came to the horrifying realization of how bad their sanitation practices are, especially when it comes to the rotisserie chickens. People not washing hands, handling the chicken while sick, etc. We have never purchased a rotisserie chicken since. Also, they left that job after a week because Sam's were using floor cleaner to clean their coats and aprons, which made my partner break out in a horrible rash. Story 27. A friend of mine who worked at White Castle told me how he caught a coworker of his cleaning the shake machine with a toilet brush from the bathroom. That guy was fired, but I still think of that story whenever I consider ordering a shake from a restaurant. Another friend pointed out how the gloves restaurant workers wear when they make sandwiches are there to protect them, not you, and how you never know if they scratched their butt with that same gloved hand before making your sandwich. Overall, you never really know what happens behind the closed door of the kitchen or to the food before it even makes it to the kitchen. That goes for food you buy in a grocery store too. Sometimes it's better not to know if you want to keep your appetite. Post-COVID, I wouldn't eat anything from there. Nothing is ever clean anymore. And I know from others who still work there that their standards have significantly declined. Absolutely disgusting for increased prices, decreased quality, and smaller portions. Story 28. Smoothie King. Anything with bananas, TBH. They use very overripe bananas, like straight liquid out of the peel sometimes. Definitely saw some with maggots. I'd throw those out, but don't let the penny-pinching franchise owner see you do it. They use overripe bananas because the sugar fermentation enhances the natural sweetness and flavor, but there would always be some that were way over. Story 29. I worked at Arby's in my teens in the late 1990s. The beef is the most repulsive food to prepare. It's a weird-looking paste, kind of the color of minced beef dog food or liver. You remove it from the plastic cover and bake it in the oven. The Arby's where I worked was particularly gross. Oil not cleaned or replaced for weeks. Ice and pop machines full of mold. Just repulsive. Once you take the beef paste out of the oven, you throw it on the slicer. Not sure how anyone who eats non-processed food would ever believe the beef is real meat. Story 30. Not necessarily fast food, but I waited tables at multiple restaurants in college, and the one that was the most clean was Texas Roadhouse. The operators keep those restaurants immaculately clean. The back kitchen and walk-in were always well labeled for use dates, and they have individual prep areas for all the meat, veggies, bread, and salads. Great place to eat if you're iffy about food germs. Story 5. If you go to a McDonald's that has a shake machine that is always working, don't get a shake there. If you go to one that is always broken, it's perfectly safe to get a shake there. The reason the machine is down so often is because it has a really long cleaning cycle that needs to be done frequently.